think that's take home with us, I think.
Let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting, December 4th, 2018. Could we have a moment of silence? Donner? Comments from the public? Hearing none. Consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7.
Presentation, North Oak Transit Improvement Plan.
Mr. Drake.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Cope.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kansas City Area Transportation Authority has started work on a North Oak Corridor transit improvement study that's being led by HNTB. This includes Burlington as part of the North Oak Corridor, and North Kansas City, along with KCMO and Gladstone, are working with them on this project as their city partners. We have Brian Comer from HNTB here tonight to give you an overview of this study so that you're aware of what's going on, how you can participate in this. I'm sure Brian is familiar to some of you as he is a former resident of North Kansas City. We used to have him on the Planning Commission and the BZA, so I'll ask Brian to come up to the podium and give you an overview. Please feel free to pepper him with questions at any point.
Thank you, Sarah. And I also have Don Boland here with KCATA. As well. So just to get you up to speed, as Sarah said, we're just kicking off this study. So this is a comprehensive transit study of the Burlington North Oak Corridor. It actually goes all the way from Crown Center and downtown through North Kansas City, Gladstone, and all the way up to the Boardwalk Transit Center, if you're familiar with that, on Vivian Road. So it's a comprehensive analysis on how we could provide better transit service and what types of options that we can. And obviously, as we all know from being Northlanders, Burlington North Oak is a central spine for the Northland region, and it makes sense to have our highest capacity transit service and significant improvements identified on Burlington and North Oak, and that's part of what the study is about. So it'll provide recommendations on how we could better serve that through improved transit services. The study will actually build on a lot of prior work that was done, and especially here in North Kansas City, you've done a lot of work with your master plan and the Burlington Complete Street Plan, and actually that's coming to fruition and a lot of physical improvements that are planned, and the transformation of Burlington will go a long way to improve transit service. And now is the time for KCATA, in partnership with Kansas City, Missouri, and Gladstone, in coming together and really looking at improvements up and down the corridor, and really more specifically, what types of transit service makes sense with all of the communities making this significant investment. So how we plan to do this, again, we're just kicking off, but we plan to engage all of the communities, so we have a significant amount of outreach. So I'm providing this presentation tonight, and John Dobies will be providing a similar presentation in the city of Gladstone, and we've reached out to Kansas City, Missouri, again, to kind of understand what the needs are from a transit perspective on the corridor. But we're going to be doing a lot of public engagement and going out and asking about what the transit needs and how do we better serve folks with transit service along the North Oak Corridor. We're going to evaluate several different service options for the corridor. Obviously, the 201 route is the main route on this transportation spine, but we're looking at several different options. And those options do include looking at a max type of level of service potentially for transit improvements. And many of you heard about the concept of bus rapid transit, and that's really what the max type services are. Really, it has a higher level of service in terms of the service frequencies, that in terms of how frequent the bus comes to each of the bus stops. And this is very important because it's been explained to me in terms of headways what that means to the transit customer. So imagine there's a gate in front of your house and it only opens every half an hour or every hour. That wouldn't be very convenient, now would it? Now, for the MAX type of services or the BRT types of services, they look at 10 to 15-minute service frequencies within the peak period. And what that means to you is you don't have to look at a complex schedule or look at your watch. You know that next bus is coming within the next 10 to 15 minutes, which is very important. It also has different vehicle types, higher level amenities at the station areas, in terms of improvements. And then also the understanding is because it's a premium service, it's easier for folks to get to and from the stations, and the improvements that you're doing on Burlington will go a long way into really making this service really functional within the Northland. So that's what we're looking at in terms of different service options. If many of you are familiar with the current MAX type services that they have now, Main Street MAX opened about 2005, and that was actually the precursor to streetcar. And many of you remember the North Rail study that looked at actually extending streetcar up here into North Kansas City. Again, this would be bus rapid transit, so it would be a rubber tire wheels type service, but it would be something that would extend all the way up further north to that Boardwalk Transit Center. And something, if you think about it, that investment on Main Street in 2005 really was a precursor to future streetcar service, and we really see this as a precursor to other higher types of higher intensity services potentially in the future, and this could be a next step. There's also Truce MAX, so there's currently 2 BRT services operating within the KCATA system, and there's a third one under construction right now, Prospect MAX. And then Independence Avenue is also being evaluated for a MAX type of service. So really, in terms of looking at North Oak, it really makes sense in terms of the connectivity that it provides to the Northland region. With that also is recommended land use changes within the corridor, because one of the things when you get this type of high-intensity types of transit service, when you look at those different types of options, typically you also have land use and development patterns that would follow that. And I know North Kansas City, really that's the vision for Burlington, is to really transform that, not just from a bicycle and pedestrian connectivity standpoint, but also from a land use standpoint. So this type of service actually facilitates more types of mixed-use developments that could occur, where you have developments where people could actually walk to the transit service and be able to connect. And really the exciting part about this is, if you look at North Kansas City, this would provide folks connections from downtown into North Kansas City to use, all of the new exciting things that are happening within the community. Certainly Gladstone around Linden Square is another node that they've provided significant investments, and we think that also makes sense in terms of a significant node. And then also really connecting the rest of the Northland region. I talked a lot about North Oak, and that's certainly kind of the focus of the corridor in terms of the central spine. But the study will also look at all of the interconnecting routes and how can we make those more efficient, and how do we be able to feed folks into the central spine and really make an efficient transit system. So really, even though the focus is on North Oak, it will also look at all of those different connecting services and how we could make those efficient, and really how do we more effectively serve the communities that are along the Burlington and North Oak corridor from a transit standpoint. So again, we're just really kicking off. This is really early on in the process, but we wanted to touch base with you and let you know. The study we think we're going to wrap up in June in terms of the recommendations, but there'll be several opportunities that we have between now and June to really reach out to the community. We'll also obviously be coming back to the council and elected bodies a couple of different times as well to share some of the things that we've heard from the community, and also preliminary recommendations as they're developed as we move along in the process. So that's just a brief overview. With that, I can open it up to any questions you might have.
Couple of quick questions. First of all, if you have community events, I think that's important so that the community can come and give their input.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a YMCA here, which has got meeting rooms. So I think that would be important here. You were talking about the MAX service.
Mm-hmm.
And with the MAX service, it's more of a rapid transit. Are there certain bus stops on North Oak, Burlington that would be possibly removed due to the MAX service? I know they space them out a little bit further. Is that what's going to be taken care, looked at in the study.
That will be looked at in the study, and that is actually a component of the rapid service that we evaluate. So, and part of that, obviously, to make that service more rapid, it would have less frequent stops. So along North Oak today, there are a lot of different stops, and it could really slow down the service. So in a max type of service, it does have a fewer stops, and really you have your stops at kind of key areas or destinations, and about a quarter-mile spacing.
Quarter-mile spacing? Okay.
Right, approximately, but it also depends on the different land use patterns. So
Well, sure,
when
and-
you have a situation like in North Kansas City, you might actually have destinations that are closer together, and it might make sense to have your stop spacing closer together. But there are areas that you go through Kansas City that are just north of here on 32nd, where you have uses that are a lot further spaced apart. So really, we don't just look at providing quarter-mile spacing everywhere. We look at the actual destinations
use
and things we need to connect to.
Residential neighborhoods. and things
Exactly.
of
The
that
other
nature.
thing that we'll evaluate, and sometimes we need to evaluate that as part of the service, is sometimes ATA will look at that underlying service, and if there's still a lot of need to provide connectivity within the area, they'll still have an underlying service that's less frequent than the BRT, if that makes sense. So the people that still need to connect every few blocks, we may look at the possibility of leaving an underlying service or serving them in another way.
And the study that you're doing, is that done by the KCATA, or who's doing that study? Somebody's paying for it?
Yeah, so KCATA is doing the study, but it is being done in partnership with Gladstone and North Kansas City and the city of Kansas City, Missouri.
This include pricing increases, I'm sure, on some of your routes.
Actually, the BRT service in terms of the fare is the same as the other fares
Will be
within the
the same?
KCATA system, yes. Yep. Good question, though.
Then some of the more local lines would connect to the mass, and
Like
Right.
the 233 or the 235?
Exactly, right. So those connections are very important, and typically, there could be the opportunity of providing, larger transit centers or destinations where those interconnecting routes come together, because again, you're feeding in a system that's much more rapid, and it also comes more frequently. So it makes sense if we could connect them into that rapid service and get them to downtown or get them to Boardwalk Place, or maybe even make future other connections further north into the airport area or to other jobs and destinations. So that is the idea, is to feed that central spine through those interconnecting services.
and then apparently we're going to be starting on this pretty soon. And
Yes.
now, would the AT&T be, in conjunction with building the stops? I mean, make them either larger or smaller for whatever the ridership's going to be.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're going to be coordinating with Sarah on, because through your Burlington plan, you've already identified a lot
Right,
of the
yeah.
improvements that typically we would do with a bus rapid transit system.
Right.
And the same thing with the station areas in terms of higher amenities, better pedestrian connections. So in some ways, North Kansas City is a lot further ahead in terms of this process and a lot more ready to be able to handle this bus rapid transit service than some of the other areas on the corridor.
And then you guys will kick in a few bucks to help with this, won't you?
The max stops do have a larger footprint than
Yeah.
a typical bus stop, so we have been coordinating with KCATA to make sure, as we plan for Burlington, that we have enough space to accommodate those larger footprint bus stops along the corridor.
Yep.
Just gonna say, look forward to the study and look forward to participating and following it. Are you gonna have a website or somewhere to keep track of progress, or somewhere people can follow
Yeah,
you online?
that's something that we're coordinating on, and then also, we tend to think that the people go to the community websites as well, so we'll have we'll be coordinating with North Kansas City and Gladstone and Kansas City, Missouri as well, to be able to get the word out to folks. And then obviously from living in North Kansas City, we have a good idea of how to connect with the community, because you have newsletters and other things that go out to all of the residents. I do know that the neighborhoods like Northgate and the avenues and that are very tight, so we definitely know how to get out to the community in terms of getting the word out.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, great job on the presentation. It's nice to see you, and
Thank you.
whatever you need, just let us know how
Okay.
we can help.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Okay, number 8, I guess.
Fourth Amendment to One North Master Development Agreement, extension of time. Bill number 7350, ordinance number 9147.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. The Master Development Agreement for One North provides that on or before December 31st, 2018, the master developer shall enter into a component development agreement with a component developer for the hotel and apartment project components. As we've indicated to you recently, good progress is being made. We do expect these both to be moving forward soon, but the developer has asked for a couple of months in order to complete the arrangements for each of those component developments. And so we do have a 2-month extension before you to allow for that, and we do recommend that you adopt the extension.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving Fourth Amendment to Master Development Agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and North Kansas City Destination Developers, LLC regarding the Armour Road redevelopment area 1 North.
I move that bill number 7350 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9147.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffens? Yes. Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance approving Fourth Amendment to Master Development Agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and North Kansas City Destination Developers, LLC regarding the Armour Road redevelopment area 1 North.
All right.
Traffic Engineering Services for Walker Road Intersection Improvements, Resolution number 18-071.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call in Ms. Copeland.
Good evening again. If you drive east on Armour Road during the morning rush hour, you will probably find traffic waiting to turn left at Walker Road has stacked up quite a bit further from the left turn lanes and occasionally into the travel lanes going eastbound. And then conversely, in the evenings, you might find that traffic coming south on Walker Road has stacked up past the intersection with Clay Edwards Drive. This is obviously not ideal. And as we were doing the traffic impact study for the redevelopment area, our engineer identified this as a potential issue that we would want to address, and we were kind of crossing our fingers that MoDOT didn't force us to address it as part of that project. So we have included this in this year's budget, an opportunity to do some improvements to this intersection to address this problem. We issued a request for qualifications to identify an engineering firm to work with us. McClure Engineering was one of our 2 respondents. They acquired Schaefer, Klein & Warren, who is our longtime city engineer, earlier this year. They have an office here in North Kansas City still. They have identified a 2-phase engineering approach to this project, and the task order that's before you tonight is phase 1 of that, and it's a traffic study to identify necessary improvements and get MoDOT to agree to the improvements to be made here. They have a great idea that we hope MoDOT will approve that would not require us to do a lot of new concrete roadway around the intersection, and we think would be a very economical and less, construction impact to the intersection way to address the problem. So this first phase is the traffic impact study and working with MoDOT to establish a consensus on improvements, and then a phase 2 would come before you in the next few months that would include the design and preparation of bidding documents. Again, we think that this will take approximately 6 weeks, assuming prompt attention from MoDOT, and then we could move forward into the construction phase. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this phase of work that you might have.
Well, this is a state highway.
Yes, it is.
Are they going to fund it, or
No,
it's
they
up
are
to
not.
us?
It's up to us.
How much is an estimate as far as phase 2?
We really don't have an estimate of phase 2 right now because it depends on the outcome of the traffic impact study. If MoDOT agrees with McClure about their suggested approach, we think it's going to be less than if MoDOT says, no, we don't agree and we're going to require you to do more construction. So this kind of saves us from doing engineering work that then we wouldn't be able to use as part of phase 2.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10.
Approval of purchase 4 police vehicles.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call in Major Kevin Freeman of the Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you is just a request for us to continue to spend down the line for police vehicles this year. This is for the frontline police vehicles and one administrative vehicle. If you recall in the conversation that we had during the budget amendment, we were kind of behind the ball a little bit with Ford because they've ceased production of the 2019 models already, and they will not begin production of the 2020 models until May next year. So this approval essentially allows us to get our order in line so we can minimize the turnover time for them. So it's based on the Mid-America Council Purchasing Program bid, and Shawnee Mission Ford holds that contract right now. So any questions?
Zach?
On the bid item, does that include the outfitting of the police vehicles? I know there's certain costs that are involved with,
No.
once you get the vehicle, it does not?
No, sir.
Okay.
This is just the purchase of the vehicle.
Purchase of the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Fred?
Well, this is a purchase of 4 patrol vehicles and 1 van, right?
No, sir. This is, the van was already approved at a prior council meeting. It's already been ordered. This is for 3 frontline. They're all going to be Ford Explorer patrol SUVs, but one is going to be assigned to the administration. And that's going to be on the hybrid platform, which is something that Ford's kind of pushing this line to.
The $187,000 was budgeted for that purchase.
Correct.
I see. Thanks.
And that 187 includes the money for the switchover and equipment and stuff like that. That'll come at a later time.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's a pretty good deal for 4 vehicles.
I know.
Yeah, I'll need, get 5 next time.
Contract for public safety robot purchase, resolution number 18-072.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. At your meeting on October 16th, the City Council approved in principle the purchase of a public safety robot from Endeavor Robotics. So after you had indicated your approval of that purchase, we called the company the next day and we said we got council approval, and they said, great, we'll send you a contract. Oh, there's a contract. We hadn't realized that they require a contract in order to complete this purchase. So they sent us a contract. We negotiated it. We're comfortable with it, and so contract approval is now before you so that we can finalize the purchase of that public safety robot.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 12.
Approving accounts due and payable by the city through November 30th, 2018. Bill number 7351, ordinance number 9148.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through November 30th, 2018.
I move that bill number 7351 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9148.
Second.
Call a roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through November 30th, 2018.
Mr. Eric?
Thank you, sir. There are a couple of reports in your packet, the regular upcoming city items of note report, also the YMCA monthly financial report for October of 2018. If you have any questions, be happy to try to answer. And then lastly, I'd like to call on Assistant City Administrator Kim Nakahoto to talk about the Communities for All Ages program, where we are and where we might go with it.
Good evening. On your online agenda packet, the attachments to my memo didn't come through, so we did print those and have them placed at your dais. So I'm going to refer to a few of those. On June 5th of this year, you guys passed Resolution 18-030, approving a technical agreement with the Mid-America Regional Council and Clay County Senior Services to begin our Communities for All Ages process and to help us achieve the bronze level. Bronze level is an awareness level, and there was a well-defined checklist that was given to us of things that we needed to do to make sure that our community was aware of what the what our community would look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years down the way, and how we are truly becoming a community for all ages. Staff we believe we have achieved those items, and I'm going to refer to the bronze level executive summary. It looks like this. The items on the back are all of the activities that we as staff achieved from May to November. All the outreach opportunities, all the articles that we published, the website, the survey, to kind of help raise awareness, to let people know of this program and how it will impact our community demographics as we move forward. We also conducted a community-wide survey. That is the larger packet that is at your desk, where we asked a comprehensive amount of questions of, do you feel like North Kansas City is well poised to become a community for all ages? As you age, would you be moving, or what processes would you put into place so that you could age in place? And just a snapshot of that is on the back. How would you rate our community as a place for people to live as they age? If you look at it, the vast majority of the respondents were either excellent, very good, or good. Like I said, there's a more comprehensive, if you really wanted to see what the answers for every single question are, we provided that within your packet. We as staff have submitted our application for the bronze designation, and we've been given a pretty good indication that we may achieve that this year. We will know more in January. That's when we'll get our official notifications. If that notification comes earlier, we're happy to share. As we're moving forward, the next level would be silver, which is a deeper dive into our policies. That is within the checklists item, which is the third item that's at your dais, which really shows all the different nodes that the city would be asked to examine. It's kind of a self-assessment. Do our policies match our vision? Do we have a lot of these items that are that would allow us to age well? So public outdoor housing, transportation mobility, community and health services. There is, just like before, the Clay County Senior Services does offer a grant to apply for those for that technical services grant that is offered through MARC for both the silver and the gold level. We are seeking direction on if you wanted to proceed with the silver level. One of the things that we would say is if we are going to pursue the silver level, we would pursue both silver and gold in tandem. So our thought would be that we would do both of those activities at the same time. Do you guys have any questions? Our thought would be if we were to get the go-ahead that the City Council would like us to proceed with the silver level designation, our thought would be that the Planning Commission would be, a lot of the things that are within that packet that you can look at, a lot of them are planning related. We would say that the Planning Commission would be the committee that would oversee that silver level self-audit.
I think that's a very good idea. I think that as we get into this deeper, we're going to find that there's going to be a lot of spin-off for this city as to how to improve ourselves, the things that we can do to attract people here. There's a lot of good things involved in it, so I think that would be a way to move forward on it.
There is a lot of work involved. A lot of it would be staff work. Kim would be.
That's why I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, that is, I've asked Kim if she'd be willing to proceed with that, and she would be. And there would be, as communicated, a role for the Planning Commission. So our intention would be to have a discussion with them at their, not the meeting coming up Thursday, but coming up here in the near future, to have that discussion with them, make sure that they're on board with assisting with that process. But we do think it would be worthwhile to go ahead and try to achieve the silver and gold levels.
I think Kim should be congratulated for the effort that she and her helpers have put into this thing. This is a very complex thing to be looking at and to be working on. And as a member of the aging committee of people that I represent, I was surprised at the way they accepted the little questionnaires that we took around, and they were excited to be involved and getting into something. You know, sometimes we older people are kind of warehoused a little bit, and they were excited about giving their 2 cents about what North Kansas City should do to improve their lot. So I want to thank Kim for all of that she's done.
Well, I'd like to thank you for all of your help in getting those surveys. And I'd also like to thank Crystal, who has been kind of my wingman for this.
Well, you're very welcome.
I'll echo Bill's comments on Kim working hard on this issue. And this isn't just, you know, it's a social issue, and I don't know if there's an economical benefit to us for obtaining this silver or gold, but it is also a social issue that we can we can maintain a city that's vibrant for all ages. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think we continue on. Just scratch the surface a little bit and time to dive deeper.
As long as you guys can support it, I think we're on board.
Well, as I understand it, then more or less the next phase is going to be shifted over to the Planning Commission.
Most of the work will be done by staff.
Yeah, but
yes, so at some point we'll be coming back to you occasionally. But yes, I think that they would be the.
But now Sarah's going to get involved.
Sarah's indicated she's
Yes,
willing to.
and not a better person in the world to get involved either.
Okay. Anything else? All right. I guess you're first.
I'm first
Yeah,
now?
I think so.
I happened to be in Florida during the blizzard. However, my residents report, as usual, Pat, your staff did a remarkable job getting everything cleared up. We are the envy of all my friends who could not get from point A to point B if they tried. It's just crazy how it is in other places, and I really appreciate that all the time. And the hard work you guys are doing on trying to clear up the leaves in this ridiculously early December. So really appreciate all your hard efforts.
I'd like to echo those comments, and also I forgot to ask a question about the Walker Road. Are you incorporating the Cerner and the hospital and the planning for that intersection? Sorry, I'm sneaking in a question in my comments.
I anticipate that as we move along, we will be communicating with them once we get to the point of, you know, knowing what we're doing with construction. In this phase, this is more of a technical traffic engineering phase. We don't anticipate working with them in this phase of the work.
But in the next phase, when you're more in the planning and
it's going to be more communication than it is like outreach about the improvements.
Okay.
But yes, we want to make sure they understand what's going on once we start construction. Yes, but that'll be down the road.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just wanted to remind everyone that on Friday, 12/7, we have the Holiday Wonderland at the Parks and Rec building. And on Saturday, 12/8, is the Candy Cane course, which I think is put on by the YMCA, but it's our 5K run through North Kansas City, runs through Northgate Village. And then Monday morning, we kick off the Field of Warmth, which is when the people donate scarves and hats and all that at Dag Park. So very excited about that. It's an exciting time of year. And then I'd like to say thank you to Crystal Doss for hosting 2 middle schoolers today from the Northgate Middle School National Junior Honor Society, earning their community service credit. They're in the back and they're ready to leave and they don't know how to get out. So I'm going to tell them to come through this door and go out when you see them. Oh, they figured out their way out.
Bye,
Good
girls.
night.
Bye-bye.
She's going to kill me later. Yes, I'm done. On that note, I'm done.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Just a couple of things. First of all, I want to mention events this weekend, the Library Tea, Friends of the Library Tea. Holiday Tea is going to be on the 8th of December. I believe the time is 1 to 4. Is that right? Okay. Well, 1 to 4 for the Library Tea. You know, I had a couple of questions from a constituent about some not really issues, but just questions about the library and their operations, and spoke with someone at the library board who was very accommodating, very helpful, So really appreciate them and the library board and the work that they do. I know all our boards work hard, but the library board is a very professional and efficient board, and I think be a good example for all our boards to follow. So other than that, I wanted to appreciate, it looks like the YMCA is looking pretty good this year, so it looks like they've done a good job on reducing the deficit, so I'm happy to see that. And that's all I have.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Y2. Actually, if the public doesn't have that, I don't know it. For the month anyway, it's almost $28,000 surplus, and this is not the only month they've done that. So they're doing very well to try, and it sure beats the other way. And I have had some questions in the ward about the house being tore down on 24th. Now, are they on a clock? Because they're taking a long time.
All building permits have an expiration date on them.
That ought to be reaching pretty soon. The
I
roof's
don't-
gone. The trouble is, the roof's gone, and walls could fall.
Well, we keep an eye on all of our contractors
Oh.
so that they are doing the work safely.
Oh, good. I figured you would, but now I can tell them, yeah, they're on the clock. Let's see. Yeah, I've had some questions, and Pat answered them. The tree planters are behind schedule. The blizzard might have had something to do with it, because they had to have the markings for the utilities. They did it, and then it got snowed on top of that, and they had to come back and mark them again. And they are marked again, so. That storm, that was a dandy, because the leaves were just ready to be sucked up by the city when the storm hit. And the reason I try to tell people to remind the school to tell the students who, God bless them, rake for free, they rake them in the street. And now when the blizzard came, the snow plows piled all them leaves right in mixed with the snow. And nobody's street is draining. Somebody might want to remind the school, because it's not really a complaint, because how do you complain about somebody doing something free? But they're not supposed to rake, any of us are not supposed to rake the leaves into the street. And that's one of the reasons why, isn't it, Pat? And I don't know when they'll come now, because the leaves have to dry out, don't they, reasonably? And they're still pretty wet. But that was kind of a dandy of an early storm. Nobody, and let's see. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, seems like items have been covered on the city items of note. And also it has been mentioned on the monthly financial report of the YMCA. So I really don't have too much. YMCA did show a positive surplus of almost $28,000 this year, or this month, the last month of October. And that's already been said. And Holiday Wonderland is on Friday, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, and that's been said. I will like to mention one thing that I should have mentioned at the last regular council meeting, and I failed to do so, and that is the Veterans Day ceremony that was at 23rd and Howe on actually, that was on November 10th, where Veterans Day is November 11th, as you well know. But it was a very nice event that took place. And I want to commend City Councilman Bill Sanders for reading a poem at that ceremony. And that's all I have.
Nothing tonight, sir.
I'll steal the mayor's line. I think everything's been said.
I got a bunch of people saying we did a heck of a job cleaning up all the snow, so we're happy with that. That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
favor?
Aye. Really enthusiastic.